Welcome to Attic Continues episode 286. Coming at you live, episode 286. This is Attic Continues, a weekly podcast in which we talk about video games and related topics. I am your host, Staffa, but y'all know who it is. Womp, 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 air horn. And goes up. This podcast goes up on atticcontinues.com as MP3 on Mondays. It goes up before that on youtube.com/atticcontinues as a video. And each week I have a different guest host with me. This week I have Kevin.
Hello, how's it going?
All right, how you doing, Kevin?
Pretty good.
Kevin actually has a mic that works, unlike Ali. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you actually can hear Kevin, unlike last week's episode where you can hardly hear Ali.
Yeah.
And I had to do some audio editing magic to make him hearable on the MP3 version without everything going wrong. That was an assignment. Yeah. It's like flashbacks of audio editing class in college. It's like, oh man, what do I do to make this thing work? Here is some crappy audio. Let's make it happen. So, anyways, thank you, Kevin, for having a mic that works.
You're very welcome.
Anyways, this week's episode segments will include our main topic, which will be about gaming characters and I guess also fictional characters with disabilities. After that, some quick announcements, and then we got a few news topics to talk about as well. But before we talk about all that stuff, I just want to do a quick disclaimer that all opinions expressed on the show are of our own and not of our employers, past, present, or future. Hashtag don't fire Staffa. Hashtag promote Staffa. Hashtag let's get it going. All right. So, Kevin.
Yeah.
Talk about some characters with disabilities, because last week Ali and I talked about disabled gamers, gamers with disabilities. Let's talk about some characters with disabilities now. Some representation of people, or characters that have some sort of a handicap, and they work around it, or living with an issue that they're trying to work around, some sort of an obstacle in their life.
Well, I don't know if you've played Life is Strange.
Not yet. It's on my to play list.
All right. I won't go into any spoiler details then, but
you spoiled it.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Kevin.
Well, it's more so just there's no several of the characters that you meet throughout the game, I guess if you're adding not just physical disabilities, but just troubles or things that they've been kind of dealing with or obstacles in their life, it deals with a lot of depression. And several characters kind of have living situations that may not be ideal, or it's all like high school drama too, because a lot of it takes place with a group of high schoolers, college students, actually. I guess I don't remember. It was kind of weird. It felt almost like high school, but it looked like a college campus. So it was like, I guess, somewhere in between. But a lot of the teenage drama kind of plays in, and so a lot of characters tend to have similar issues with depression, or just difficulties that they have to get through in life. And I think it's a really good commentary on that age group and some of the issues that people who are playing the game may have suffered through. So it kind of builds a relatable circumstances for the player. Some people who may have had some troubles through high school or college may find that a lot of the characters are suffering the same things that they would have. So a lot of opportunities for empathy and sympathizing with characters.
Yeah, I mean, there's also, I mean, mental disabilities are also disabilities.
Yeah.
And there's, I guess, in a way, like, I mean, this isn't a video game, but Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, a lot of people with like Asperger's or autism, they relate to Drax, at least in the first movie, because of the way how like a lot of the stuff that's said to him, he takes it way too literally, similar to that of a person with those type of mental disabilities. And I've seen comments online where people are like, wow, he's just like my cousin, or oh, he's just like me. I feel like there's a superhero that's like me,
Yeah.
those type of comments where I mean, it's not like, for the average person, you look at it, it's not like a huge deal. It's like, oh, he just takes everything literally. But like for a person who does have that type of a mental disability, they connect with that character a lot more.
Yeah.
As far as like characters in video games, one of the first characters that I thought of when thinking of like characters with disabilities in a video game was Joker from Mass Effect.
Mm-hmm.
Because Joker, like, well, he has like what was his disease? Like something that makes his bones weaker or something like that. I can't remember. Like
it's been a long time since I've played Mass Effect.
Yeah, like they explained in the first game, but I'm pretty sure they said something like about his bone structure being weaker, and he's basically wheelchair bound. There's like one scene, and I can't remember the second game, I think.
Yeah, it was, I think, the opening. Spoiler alert if you haven't played the second game.
No, it wasn't I don't think it was the opening.
Yeah, it was when the Normandy was being destroyed.
No, you're still playing Shepard. It was like,
well, I thought he has
it was like a mission before the last mission. It was basically like Shepard and crew are like, oh, we're going on a mission, and then they leave, and then they come back, and like, Joker had to like save the day. I'm pretty sure it was like way later in the game. It was not the opening, because the opening you play as Shepard. I'm very certain about that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what you were referring to specifically then.
But like there's a scene, there's a part where you actually play as Joker, and the way how he's hobbling around, I mean, you could tell he's having a hard time moving.
Yeah.
Like, one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring up this type of topic is because I have a herniated disc. I am unable to run due to my herniation pinching on the mortuary nerve that controls my left leg. I cannot stand on my toes on my left leg. Therefore I can't run, because if you're running, you're on your toes.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was like, are there actually any like fictional characters with herniated discs? The answer is no. but still, it's like, I mean, it's herniated disc isn't exactly a disability unless you decide not to do anything about it. It's more of just an injury. But I mean, yeah. So seeing or thinking of characters that are wheelchair bound, it's like, yeah, I can understand their difficulties due to me living through that the past almost year now. But um, I feel like characters that and whether it's in video games or any other sort of fiction, characters that have a disability, and you view them, or they actually work with their obstacle during that story or whatever. Um, it adds another layer to their character, rather than like a character who just looks like they have a disability and functions normally. For example, like all the characters from Overwatch that have some sort of a robotic limb, like Symmetra.
Yeah.
Like she is technically a disabled person because she's an amputee. She has a prosthetic arm, but nothing about her really, you know, screams disabled person. Like she functions completely normal. Uh, nothing about her in-game character or story character uh has her, um working around that obstacle of her missing an arm. McCree is also, he has a robotic arm too, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a few characters in Overwatch that are technically disabled, but
Yeah.
they they don't work around any sort of um, obstacle with their disability. Um, Now, like Big Boss from Metal Gear, on the other hand, like he's missing a hand or missing half his arm, and he's also um, he has one eye missing. Like in the very beginning of the game, where he's like he's hospitalized, uh, and he's trying to escape from the hospital. Like that part of the game is like a nightmare because you're this weak person that was in a hospital bed and you have one arm and you're trying to escape like this crazy, you don't know what's going on, some sort of terrorist attack in this hospital. um like that part really shows uh the obstacle of being disabled. But then like once, after that part of the game, he gets his uh prosthetic arm, and he has his eye patch on. Like there's no real indication that he's disabled other than the fact that he looks like it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like him having a patch on his eye doesn't really change the way you aim. In fact, he's still like looking down the iron sight as if uh as if like he has his right eye. Like that's
Hmm.
some sort of like a, they that's like an oversight from uh whoever animated him holding the gun. Like he's still looking down his right eye even though he has an eye patch there. It should be left eye.
Yeah. And actually, going back to Symmetra, another thing that Blizzard had recently confirmed is that Symmetra is autistic, and I think that was like a theory for a long time, and then Blizzard confirmed that.
Just
So
wondering, why was that theory?
I actually do not know the history behind the all of that. I didn't actually know that there was a theory until there were articles about Blizzard making the confirmation. Um, but it's kind of cool that Blizzard has given every single one of their characters extremely unique backstories,
Mhm.
even though they don't really play much into the games itself. Just the fact that they have all of these stories for each of their characters, it shows that Blizzard really wants to try to give um, give everyone the opportunity to find characters that they can relate with, or characters that have some kind of representation for most people.
Winston's disabled. He's not
Yep.
human.
Yep.
That's a disability.
Speciest.
I support the human race. Whose side are you on? Huh?
On life side.
Life.
Yeah. Side of life.
I see how it is. You're either with us or you're against us.
And actually, going back to your Marvel comment with Guardians of the Galaxy, Daredevil's a pretty recently popular character who plays the role of a superhero, even though he's got a disability of being blind.
Yeah.
And
a blind person who can see.
Yeah.
That's a superpower.
Bat. He basically just has like sonar hearing. And but yeah, so
Well,
like how they implement that into it does make sense, because even if you do lose a sense, it's been said that your other senses heighten to make up for that lost sense.
Well, the thing with Daredevil is that, like in the more recent explanations of his abilities, it's not that he like by default has the power to like see like a bat. It's that, similar to Stick, who's also blind. Stick is using, he's like focusing his ninja abilities on. Thanks for barging in on the podcast. Anyways, Stick is using his abilities to hone in on what's around him, and Daredevil just has a better ability to do so, because that's like his senses are higher. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
no,
it's not that the power is exclusive to Daredevil, that he's like seeing like a bat. It's just his ability to sense everything is better than that of Stick or the other ninjas.
Yeah. No, I was just making a joke that he has sonar like a bat, but
he's Batman.
Yeah. There's already a bat superhero. We don't need two of them.
I mean, Marvel has multiple disabled characters. I mean, Professor Xavier is a disabled character. He's wheelchair bound.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, DC also has a wheelchair bound character in Oracle / Batgirl, who like for a while she's been wheelchair bound, but then like recently they rebooted her during like the New 52, where like she's recovered from that.
Yeah.
So yeah, she had the operation to fix her herniated disc, similar to me. or future me.
So I'm pretty sure it was shot in the spine.
Hey, those herniated discs. But yeah, I mean, there's other characters from fiction that have disability. I mean, we got from Star Trek Next Generation. What's his name? Gordy LaForge. Geordi, yes. He was blind, right?
Yep, he was born blind, but they were able to develop this visor that lets him see, but he can't see like we can, so it doesn't just give him the ability to see with visible light. He actually can sense other spectrums of radiation, so he can actually see like in infrared and thermal, and he can see other particles that may be around but because of those, he's able to still get spatial awareness of where things are and can still function.
Like a bat.
So that's what it's all coming down to. Like everyone who's blind
Is
just
a bat.
becomes a bat. Yeah.
There's and in a couple of the more common games, there's I think it's like Blind Kenshi or something like that. It's like a blind ninja. Same thing. He sees like a bat. But like, due to it being a fighting game, like you don't have, you're always seeing from the same view. It's not like your side of the screen goes black when you play as him.
Yeah.
There's a one character from one of my favorite animated shows. Obviously not a video game, but from Avatar: The Last Airbender, there's a character, Toph. She is a blind girl, and just quick explanation of the world of Avatar. Like there's the four elements, which are earth, fire, water, and air, and there's people who are called benders who are able to manipulate those four, or one of the four elements. Like, water benders are able to do stuff with water and ice. Fire benders are able to like shoot fire out of their hands and stuff like that. Earth benders are able to do stuff with rocks. And Toph, she's a blind girl, but due to her strong ability of earth bending, she's able to feel like vibrations from the earth, and she's able to tell where people are and what they're doing just from the vibrations of the earth. So if she's like not grounded, like if she is being carried by somebody, for example, or if she's on a flying bison, which is that's a thing in the show, like bison that fly around. If she's sitting on a flying bison, she obviously cannot feel the vibration of the earth, and she has no idea what's going on around her. She's as blind as she actually is, but due to her strong ability of earth bending, she is able to get around that disability, while she is on the ground. And that plays a huge role with her character, as far as, where she's at and what's going on. So it's like if she's on the ground, she's just a beast as far as, using her martial arts and earth bending. But, if she's not on the ground, or if she's like even on like sand, which is not as solid as her standing on regular ground, she's a lot less effective. So I really like how they used her character and her disability in that series. It played a huge role with her character. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what I want to say with characters with disabilities, is that if there's a character in your video game or whatever sort of fiction that you have, and they have like that sort of obstacle to work around, I think it adds more depth to their character when their disability is more than just something visual, but something that actually plays a part in their plot. And also, it's makes the character more relatable to people with that same disability. It adds representation to your world.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. There was a game that I remember seeing a while back, and I can't remember what the name is, but it kind of incorporated some level of disability into its gameplay. I mean, I don't know if it was intended to be a disability, but the idea is that you can't see anything in the level. It literally is all black. But you have like a sonar gun that you can use to shoot out little particles of basically like sonar just like sonar waves, and then you can see the level build up around you as you kind of paint the environment with your little sonar tool. And that was kind of an interesting idea in terms of not realistic in terms of blindness, but just not being the gameplay itself was inhibited because you can't see anything. But obviously you have a tool that lets you see eventually, but you still can't see in, like, it doesn't make those areas visible with light, but you can still kind of get the sense of depth as you walk around. I don't remember what that was called.
I think it was the dubstep gun in Saints Row.
That was it. You basically hear with like a bat, but with dubstep instead of sonar.
And seriously though, there's a game on Xbox not Xbox Live Arcade, but the Xbox Indie Marketplace on the 360. And I can't remember what the game was called. I mean, it was like this small indie game. It was like, you know, one of those $1 games in the indie store. And basically the game had no visuals at all. Like, it was completely black screen, except like, you know, it had a tile screen, and also it had like some instructions that showed up for like, you know, a minute or so, but then it faded away. But other than that, it was completely black screen. And it was supposed to be best played with headphones. And you're like stuck in a well or something like that with a monster, and so like all the footsteps sound like they're, you know, splashes in a puddle, and you're supposed to stay away from the monster. Like, you know, that's completely black screen, and you move around, I guess similar to like a first person game with the analog sticks, but you just, no matter what, you don't see anything at all. And you know, just completely black screen, and you're just going completely off of the audio. So, and that was a very interesting use of, you know, lack of visuals, or, you know, being blind. Like, you know, I mean, your character wasn't blind, you're just in a dark well, but I mean, it basically gave you the feeling of being blind.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. That'd make the game so much scarier.
Yeah.
You can't see anything, you don't know where you're going, but you can still hear the monster chasing you. And
yeah, like some people, I've explained that game to people before. Like, is that Amnesia? No, it's not Amnesia, because Amnesia, there's actually some graphics in that. Even though it's a dark game, there's graphics. This game is like completely black. There is no graphics at all. You literally have a black screen. But yeah. Anyways, anything else you want to add on this discussion before we move on?
No, I don't think so.
All right. So let's start talking about something that can also have use of disabled characters by I don't know whether you want to like make a blog or a, you know, website or whatever in dedication to disabled characters. And you know what that is?
I can take a guess, but I think you want to reveal it, don't you?
Oh, no, I want you to guess.
I don't know. I need help with this one.
Do you have some sort of disability that's preventing you from guessing?
I think so. Possibly.
Okay, I'll help you out. It's DreamHost.
Oh.
DreamHost is a web service that offers unlimited storage, unlimited bandwidth, user-friendly interface, and they're also optimized to use content to managers such as WordPress and many more features. All that just for $7.95 US a month. And if you use the promo code OUTOFCONTINUES, that's one word, no spaces, it'll get you it'll waive away the setup fee and get you free domain registration.
Very nice.
Yeah. So some quick announcements. First announcement is after this episode, I'm going to take a brief hiatus, at least 1 week, maybe longer. So next week, I will be having surgery on my herniated disc. And so I won't even be at home. I'm going to be staying with my sister for a few days. And yeah, I'm going to need some recovery time from the surgery. And so that way I will no longer be a borderline disabled person. Um, but yeah, so possibly Kevin might take over, possibly Ali might take over, possibly this Asian guy standing behind me might take over. I don't know. But if no one's going to take over the show while I am gone, there's going to be at least 1 week off. And yeah, uh, I'm not sure when I will be back. Maybe after a week, but as of right now, I'll just say that the show's going to go on hiatus for a little bit. But once I'm done with the recovery process, or at least back from my sister's place, I should be back and able to do more podcasts. Other announcement will be that iTunes users, please leave an iTunes review. We can use some. They're one of the single most helpful things you could do for the podcast, and that's leaving a review on iTunes. iTunes goes by the number of reviews. They don't care about the quality of the review. They just care about the quantity, and they also go by week basis. So any week I don't get reviews as if I don't have any reviews at all. So please leave a review. One of the single most helpful things you could do for the podcast. If you can't leave a review on iTunes, you can also help us out by sharing the podcast on social media such as Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Make one of those like story video things, where like you just have the camera on your face for 5 seconds and be like, yo, check out How to Continues, and just let that be your story, and then all your friends will get a notification saying that you made your first story in a long time, and then they'll click on it and they'll be like, what the heck is an How to Continues? And then they'll check out How to Continues, and then all you guys will be watching How to Continues, and that's how it goes. I don't know. I might be making stuff up at this point. Maybe I'm partially disabled in the head, but that might happen. So other than that, let's move on to the gaming news. The gaming news is going to be shared on your screen right now if you're watching this on the YouTubes. So here we go. Let's talk about Nintendo. So Nintendo sales soar thanks to Switch and consoles and games. So comparing this past 3 months compared to last year, sales for Nintendo consoles has increased 148%. That's more than double. That's like double and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, because no one wanted a Wii U.
Pretty much. And I think also the idea that the Switch is portable is it's more appealing to most people, and I think that's why the 3DS and the DS in general have always done well. It's because it's portable and you can play that anywhere and don't have to be at your TV, at your couch, or at home.
Yeah, well, that, and also I think the Switch has a stronger lineup than the Wii U had starting off. I mean, they released it with a Zelda game and Mario Kart with all the DLC, and also they got games like Splatoon 2, which just came out, and people are excited for Super Mario Galaxy. So yeah, I mean, I think it just has a stronger lineup, which really helps out. I mean, as far as like the whole gimmick of the the hardware, I don't think that's really helping as much. Like, I mean, if you compare the two, I mean, they're very similar, except for the fact that the Switch is completely portable compared to the Wii U, which was like semi-portable. It was
Yeah, I
like,
think the form factor also makes a huge difference because it's just a more refined design where you can, um, yeah, you can have the controllers attached to the tablet part itself, or you can detach them and use them as like motion controllers as well.
mhm.
And it's smaller, it's a cleaner package. But
Yeah,
you know, there are still some issues I think that the Switch needs to solve before they get even bigger audience or bigger sales numbers, I
mhm.
think.
Yeah,
The biggest issue is just their whole online ecosystem and
yeah.
their social platform. Just the fact that you have to use a phone with an app to do any kind of voice chat with people in game. That's a that's a huge detriment, I think, to their online aspect, especially for games like Splatoon 2, where you might be playing with friends or playing online even with strangers, and you're still going to be voice chatting.
I
But
saw somebody post on Reddit. It was a like somebody in like the Splatoon 2 chat where like they draw on the little talking clouds. They drew the that meme with the dude that's pointing at his head, the black dude pointing at his head, saying something like can't have toxic voice chat if no one can use voice chat.
that's true.
But
Yeah.
yeah. Um moving on.
Yep.
Yeah, let's just talk about more Nintendo stuff. Metroid Prime 4. So, it's likely not going to be released in 2018. Their release date for it is to be announced, and I feel like this is no duh. I
Yeah.
mean, like the only thing they showed off on E3 or during E3 was like this logo of Metroid Prime 4. They showed absolutely nothing. They didn't even show concept art. They didn't show anything. They just showed the logo. And when you show the logo and that's it, that means the game is definitely not coming out next year.
Yeah. I
It's
wonder what their motivation was for showing just the logo. I guess maybe to build
to get
hype,
people hyped. That's
but
it.
people to buy the Switch early, like as like an investment. Where
Yeah.
I'm assuming that was their purpose for showing this, was just to show that yeah, we're working on games for the Switch, and here's a big one that will eventually get released. But and that makes sense. I just think that um, they probably should have waited until they had something more substantial to show, even if it was like a teaser trailer that kind of hinted at maybe story elements or something else. But
I mean, like I I I feel like it was a definitely no-brainer that it was not coming out next year because they were showing off. It was like Yoshi and Kirby, and those actually had gameplay, and those were slated for 2018.
yeah,
Metroid Prime had nothing, just a logo, and it's like, okay, if those other games actually had gameplay and this slated for 2018, the Metroid Prime is definitely not 2018. Maybe not even 2019.
yeah, they're getting on CD Projekt Red levels of teasers.
Yeah. I mean,
Here's a teaser trailer for Cyberpunk, and it's not going to be released for another
yeah, Cyberpunk. What was it? What's the year? Cyberpunk 20.
seven,
What's that?
2077.
2077. Okay, yeah, that's the release date. There we go.
Yep.
Cyberpunk 2077 coming out in 2077.
I think I'm just going to go into cryo sleep so I'm not an old man when that game comes out, or I'm still, alive.
Yeah. Dude, Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be released by CD Projekt Red's grandchildren.
Yep.
Like they're going to inherit the development of that game.
It's a lineage based game now.
Yeah. Yep. Well, yeah. Moving on.
Process. Yep.
Let's talk about other Nintendo stuff. Look, SNES Classic. So last week, Walmart had pre-orders up for the SNES Classic, and then they started canceling some of them, and now they canceled all of them. And they basically said put out a statement saying thank you for your interest in the SNES Classic, and it's highly sought out for, and then they basically said that it was like a mistake for them
Yeah.
to uh, put out that pre-order. It was not intentional. So all of them got canceled, and then like another update says that um, some people who purchased a pre-order got an email saying that their console is stated for delivery date for September 29th, which is probably it's an automated email, so it's probably another glitch. So people are sad facing over this.
Yeah. Well, I think what Nintendo should do is make the NES Classic available again.
It actually became available for like a few hours this past week. But only in certain stores, and they were like in $140 bundles. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, this one's the Tetris bundle, and it comes with like a big Tetris toy, and this one's the Mega Man bundle. It comes with like a helmet and a Mega Man Buster.
Yeah.
So, but then those like instantly sold out as well.
Yeah, I think Nintendo's uh, their whole process with handling the NES Classic was really, really bad. It was poorly planned, poorly executed, and I'm afraid that they're going to make the same mistake again for the SNES Classic. But we'll see, because
Uh,
I think back when the NES Classic was originally stopped like on production, I think that they released a statement saying that we understand that the interest in the NES Classic is very high, and so because of that, we're going to do the right thing and cancel and not make any more, and or something along those lines. And they basically said, "There's a lot of demand for this, so we're not going to make any more."
we didn't know people wanted to buy our thing.
And yeah, it's just it was not a good way for them to do any of this.
Yeah,
So hopefully they do it better this time around, but I don't have my hopes up.
I
Um,
I don't believe.
yeah. But also, I think I heard somewhere that a patent for a new Nintendo 64 console or controller was filed by Nintendo. So it's hinting at a N64 classic potentially being released at some
You know,
point in the future.
the thing is, like the N64 had some really cool games, but there's two things that make me less hyped for that. One is that a lot of those games did not age well. For
Right.
example, GoldenEye 007.
Yeah.
Like that, a lot of people love that game, but the thing is, it was good for its time. And if you try playing that today, it is nowhere near as playable as you expect it to be because, I mean, this was before Halo came out. Halo has
Yeah.
helped um, modernize console shooters, and it GoldenEye 007 was definitely no Halo. And the other thing that makes me less hyped for it is the N64 had a bad controller. I mean,
Well, yeah, and I
you
think that
try to defend it all you want. No one has three hands.
right. No, I hated the N64 controller. It was not comfortable at all. But this, I'm thinking that this patent for a new controller design is supposed to modernize it a little bit, so it's not going to have the exact same like three handle design of the original N64 controller.
Hmm.
And I think because of that, there is a chance that they might. Uh, I don't think it's very likely that they will, but potentially update some of the game's control mechanics so that they fit a more modern style.
I don't know. I doubt that they'd like rework the mechanics.
Golden Sun and Perfect Dark, but I didn't hear what you said. I think it kind of like broke in and out.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna actually rework the mechanics.
Oh, yeah, I don't think that's very likely, but I guess we'll see based on if this rumor is true that they
I
submit
know, I know
patent.
for like the Perfect Dark that came out on 360, they reworked the mechanics.
Yeah,
Uh, but I really doubt that on like a SNES or sorry, N64 Classic that they'll rework anything. I think the only thing that they would add would probably be save states, similar to how the NES Classic has, and um, well, I don't know. That would kind of like break the design of some of those games,
yeah,
but uh, I'm not sure. I don't see personally. I don't see them changing anything.
yeah. I don't think that they will. Mainly because I think the whole point of these is to just bring literally the exact same games over to uh, so that people can still play them today without having to buy the cartridges and the console. Um, but yeah, we'll see what they do if the N64 Classic is even a thing. But and from what I also heard, that the SNES Classic is literally the exact same hardware as the NES Classic. It's just different ROMs for the games,
Perfect.
and obviously it's going to look different because they're going to make it look like an SNES. But
All right. Moving on.
yep,
Let's talk about these competitors trying to compete with the SNES Classic, trying to piggyback on the success. So we have the At Games, which has announced the release of the Sega and Atari classic consoles, the Sega Genesis Flashback and the Atari Flashback, and I mean these things have existed for a while though. Like for Atari, they've been like these Atari Flashbacks, which were just one controller that you plug into your TV and it would have like 40 games on it or something like that. And there have been like Sega Genesis flashbacks, but apparently like these are supposed to like support 720p, HDMI, and 85 games. And while there were some really cool games on this Sega Genesis, I don't think these carry as much weight with people as far as nostalgia goes as like an SNES classic does. Because you compare a game like Super Mario Bros, compare that to all three Sonic games. The Sonic games do not hold up. Like they are not as good as Super Mario Bros.
and I think that comes down to personal preference.
I
I know a
I
lot of people
I
that
do not think it's just personal preference. I mean, like, a lot of those mechanics are not the same. I mean, like you can't even save your game in Sonic 1 or 2. Like those games are shorter than Super Mario World. There's a lot less levels. There's um no save mechanic. Like the platforming is just not as good. Like those games do not hold up as well as Super Mario World. Like Super Mario World has this huge overmap, has tons of levels, tons of secret levels. It has a saving mechanic. It has like the gameplay itself holds up really well, unlike Sonic, where a lot of people remember running fast as Sonic, but those Sonic games, if you play them today, they're not as fast as what people remember, because there's a lot of standing still waiting for these moving platforms to get close to each other, and then it's like, oh, now the platforms are close enough and now I have to jump. It's like there's I don't know. I feel like a lot of people just do not remember those games as well as they should. and those games are just not as good as the Mario games. I'm not saying this as like an opinion. I'm like, if you compare those games like side by side, they're just not as good.
All right, I won't be able to provide a counter argument because I didn't really grow up playing Nintendo games or Sega games. Um, but and also I just never really got that interested in 2D platformers in general. I mean, there are some that I like, but it's not been a genre that I've strongly connected with.
Not enough roguelike in it.
Pretty much.
But I don't know. Like,
I never actually. I mean, I've played several Sonic games and I've played several Mario games, but not enough to compare them to that level.
I'm trying to see if there's like a list of games that's inside this. But I mean, just seeing like the games that are highlighted on the front of this. Yeah, those are some of the more memorable games from the Genesis, but they're just, I don't know, they're just not as good as the games on the SNES Classic. Like Altered Beast is a pretty bad beat 'em up game. Golden Axe is an okay beat 'em up game. Like these are just not as good as the games that are on the SNES Classic. Columns, which was clearly just like, a puzzle game that was meant to compete with Tetris and was nowhere near as good as Tetris.
Yeah. Well, I think both Nintendo and Sega have to worry about the Atari because if that includes E.T. and Superman, that's going to sell out.
Dude, I loved Superman for Atari. I don't know what you're talking about. When I was a kid, I was like, it's amazing. Like, it had a huge world that you explored, and then you had to like build the bridge.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that game is trash today, but back when I was a kid, Superman was awesome. Don't bash on Superman. E.T. Yeah, that is a bad game. I will agree with you all day, every day with that, because I actually played that as a kid. But Superman, I was playing that, and I even beat the game.
Nice.
I built the bridge, and I put everybody back in prison. Like that was the objective of the game. Like the very beginning, like the prison blows up and everybody goes out of the prison, and then you have to like find all the parts to rebuild the bridge, and you take everybody back to jail.
Nice.
I did it. I was Superman. Now I'm hernia disc man.
You did too much saving people, so now you're.
Yeah, I lifted the bridge with my back.
Yeah.
I didn't lift with my legs.
Lift with your legs. Oh well.
That takes too much work. I'd rather just lift with my back, dude. All right. Let's move on. Let's talk about Titanfall 2. It's free this weekend. After they added the new co-op mode and the new DLC for free. You can check it out until July 30th. So that's tomorrow. So if you're listening to this on the MP3, it's over by now. But looks like it's free on everything this weekend. PC, Xbox One, and PS4. Yeah. And the double XP event ends on July 31st. Kevin, you should install Titanfall 2 when we play the co-op mode.
Yeah, actually, I did play the co-op mode a couple days ago, and it's fun. So yeah, let me know if you want to play.
All right, I haven't installed it again. I'm going to be installing it soon after we record.
Cool.
Well, actually, I installed Lawbreakers last night because I want to play that
Oh
open
yeah,
beta before it ends.
I did forget about that.
I heard that Lawbreakers is actually pretty good at this point.
Yeah, I was watching some gameplay video of that recently, like a month ago or so, and it looks so much better than when that initial gameplay video like time. It was like several months when they
Yeah,
released.
we were playing like the alpha.
Yeah,
It was really bad, but
yeah.
I'm hearing that the Lawbreakers is actually pretty good now, so I want to check it out before the open beta ends and the game actually comes out.
Do you know when open beta ends?
It's this weekend. Is the last weekend.
Hmm. But
Um, yeah, but I mean Titanfall 2, they released the update. They're trying to get people to play, and on top of that, it's going to be hitting Origin Access next week, starting on Tuesday, August 1st. It will be part of the Origin Access. So if you have Origin Access, like Kevin over here,
yeah, I should have waited. I haven't really played the game since I bought it
mm-hmm.
that much, and now that it's going to be on Origin Access, I could have saved $60 because I haven't really been playing it much. But
I did. I only played the campaign, and I'm fine with the money I spent on it because I think it's a really solid game,
yeah,
and I'm fine with supporting it. It's I don't like the fact that this game is um, failing because I think it's a really good game.
yeah. The problem is that when you've got big titles like Call of Duty and Battlefield
Yeah.
as the focus for multiplayer shooters, it's really hard for other IPs to come in and make a significant dent in those
No,
in the places.
it's
And like,
failing primarily due to executive decisions, releasing the
yeah,
game at a bad date.
yeah,
If this game came out this year, like in February, when there was like nothing else coming out, like the only game that people were talking about back then was Neo. It probably would have done a lot better.
yeah.
But yeah. And speaking of EA, EA has talked about last week we talked about Ubisoft celebrating the delay of Red Dead Redemption 2. This week it's EA. Like they're saying it opens up a little bit of opportunity, I think, for everybody. Like we got like all these executives for these big gaming publishers basically popping open wine bottles or champagne bottles because they're celebrating that Red Dead Redemption's not coming out this year.
Yeah.
Like it's like a victory to everybody other than Rockstar that Red Dead Redemption's not coming out this year.
Well, I think it would still be a victory even for Rockstar because I've always been for delays,
Yeah.
especially in our current AAA market where several companies release games unfinished and unpolished. Um, I think Rockstar is doing the right thing in delaying the game because this gives them more time to work through bugs, add extra polish, add any other features that they think would help improve the game. And yeah, it's definitely going to help some of the competitors so that they don't have to worry about uh, a huge title coming out this year, and then it gives them more time to prepare for that. So I think it's a win for everyone, including especially the consumers, because we're getting a game that's not going to be broken, and it also just shows that Rockstar is committed to their games and not so much just the market opportunity and releasing a game just for the sake of releasing it because then they can make that much money sooner. Like they're willing to put more time into their work and make a product that is more finished.
All right. So that's it for the gaming news. Unless you want to add anything else, Kevin.
Nope, I don't think so.
All right. So let's move on to listener feedback. Uh, if you want to write in to the podcast, you could do so just like Tim J, who has wrote in to the podcast by sending your email to podcast@outofcontinues.com. This is a completely free method in which you can use to contact us, and we'll read your emails and or questions or comments or any type of feedback that you have for us. So Tim J, longtime listener of the podcast, longtime believer of Smash Brothers being a fighting game. Put wrong with that, but that's fine. I don't hate Tim for that. He can believe that all he wants. So, anyways, he just wanted to chime in a few things. And I guess in one of the previous podcasts, I talked about Earthbound. I guess it was the podcast where I was talking about the SNES Classic and the game lineup. Maybe I think he mentions that there was no like Earthbound prototype for the NES. There was a full translation made for Mother, but it was completed so late that Nintendo decided not to release it. The same happened for Final Fantasy II. And then he says he thinks Earthbound / Mother 2 was always an SNES / Super Famicom game. And then he also talks about Final Fantasy VI. I think this was in reply to Kevin. We talked about games with fantasy settings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is me mentioning Final Fantasy VI having somewhat of a fantasy setting, somewhat of a steampunk setting. He says Final Fantasy VI / 3 US was absolutely a steampunk / early industrial age setting. Final Fantasy 4 and 5 were much more medieval medieval fantasy / magipunk settings, though 9 was probably the best, blending large mechanical works with what seemed like a pre-industrial society. Sure. All right. I don't know. I mean, it's been a while since I played Final Fantasy VI, but from what I remember, there was a lot of like castles, and like Cecil was a knight. I mean, I do remember there was like mechanical stuff in there, like mechs and stuff, but I do recall medieval stuff in there as well. But sure, we'll go with what you say, steampunk. And he also mentions that the SNES Classic looks neat, but the cords are still too short. Yeah. What's it, like 6 feet or something? Still too short.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what they said, 6 feet, which is still too short. I mean, the NES was too short. It was 3 feet, but the SNES Classic being 6 feet, that's still too short.
It's double.
Yeah. So it's still too short. I mean, like, it should be like 12 feet.
Yeah.
I think 12 feet is reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Come on now. People are paying, what, $80 for it? Give us 12 feet long cables. How hard is that? How hard? But anyways, let's wrap things up. If you enjoy what you've been hearing, you can support us by liking us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, leave an iTunes review, subscribe to Google Play Music, or you can contact by email. That's podcast@outofcontinues.com. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/outofcontinues. All those things I just said, they're on the website. That's www.outofcontinues.com. You can also give me a tweet. I am at Say It Staff. That's at SAYEDSTAFA. And Kevin over here has a Twitter as well that he also uses much more than me.
Yeah, it's at KS Trehan. That's KSTREHAN.
I'd like to thank my guest host, Kevin, for joining me today.
Always glad to be here, Staffa, and thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you, Kevin. And with that said, I am Staffa. I will see you guys in a few weeks as Staffa 2.0, healthy, with a functional back, with a functional left leg, and yeah. And if you're watching this on YouTube, click here for last week's episode. click on the icon above my face. That's for subscribing, and the episode before last week is over there. See you guys eventually.